I've asked Gus Gordon to talk to us for a few minutes. Hoagland is one of the really, really great things in Springfield, and like everything, it needs support. And if Gus would come up for a minute and talk to us for a second.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here this morning. And Bob, thank you for graciously allowing me to speak for just a few minutes. We are very, very pleased to have the Citizens Club as a resident member of the Hoagland Center for the Arts, because we're more than just an art center. I think we're vital to downtown Springfield, and I see us as a community arts center, and the Citizens Club and the Sunrise Rotary Club make up that community portion, or that community equation. We have grown so much over the years, and that's largely due to many of you sitting here today. So thank you for your support over the years and your continuing support. We now have 21 resident organizations. We just added the Central Illinois Film Commission as a new resident group. So we've added film to the equation of what we cover here. But we cover theater, dance, orchestral music, vocal music. We cover visual art. We have a Grammy-nominated resident artist in the form of Dave Kane here. We have folk dancing and ballet, and we cover just about every conceivable art form. And I have a little brochure that I've placed out on the table, and I do encourage you to take one before you go. This tells a little bit about the Hoagland, and it mentions all of these different resident organizations minus the Film Commission, because they're brand new to us. But I just want you to know how much goes on here. This building is busy so often. It's a beehive of activity every night after 5 and on weekends. And when people say there's nothing to do in Springfield after 5 or on weekends, I beg to differ, because we have meetings and weddings and rehearsals and classes and performances, concerts, plays, musicals. There is so much, presidential visits every now and then. So much going on here, and I think it's been a major part of the downtown. Now, we were very fortunate in 2015 to pay off the mortgage of the building, and that was a historic moment for us and a very proud moment. But life does go on, bills continue to come in, and now we are faced with having to finally address our heating and cooling and infrastructure. So we're starting a new campaign. We're doing it quietly right now. We'll release it publicly later on. We're calling it the Hoagland Goes Green campaign, and our goal is to replace the chillers on our roof, replace the boilers, which are from 1960, I believe, some of the air handlers. We're hoping to add solar panels to the roof, and we're also hoping to replace many of the fixtures throughout the building with LED lighting, so it'll be much more energy efficient. Our heating and cooling bills can be quite staggering at times. Over the summer months, they can be as high as $15,000 a month. And we have to get a grip on our energy cost, and that's why we're starting this campaign. And we'll have more information about that coming to the public later on this year and into the summer. But just wanted to give you all a heads up, because you are concerned citizens, and we're not in any trouble, but we do want to grow and continue doing more for the community, and one of the ways to do that is to get a handle on our energy costs. So thank you, Bob, very much for this moment. I hope you do pick up this little brochure. So many people know us for one thing. They drop off their kids to the Youth Symphony, or they come here to see a play, or they go to the Springfield Art Association Collective Gallery, but they don't know everything else that goes on here. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of people who come into this building every single week. And I think beyond just being something vitally important to the youth of our community and the people of our community, I think we're very important to the economic growth of downtown Springfield. And I think that's sometimes something that gets forgotten in the shuffle, that we bring so many people down here who are eating at restaurants, shopping in stores. So just wanted to remind everyone of that. And again, thank you so much for being here. And Bob, thank you for letting me speak.
Hang on just a minute. With that in mind, the board met a few weeks ago. I'd like to present Gus with a $1,000 check for a beginning of what I hope is a very successful campaign for our Hoagland Center.
Bob, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Program today is very special. Scott Dahl is the Executive Director of the Springfield Convention and Visitors Bureau. He's been with them some 8 months. Before that, he was with the Illinois Hotel Lodging Association for some 16 years. Has, of course, a very strong background in motel management. With that in mind, the program today is Scott.
Yep, thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Citizens Club, WMAY, for your ongoing sponsorship, the Hoagland Center, as well for hosting today. Thank you all for being here on this beautiful morning, this beautiful spring morning, as we head into our spring and summer travel season. I'm delighted to be able to let you know what's going on at the tourism level in Springfield and where we're going, where we're heading in the next few years. Visit Springfield is responsible for promoting the city and county as one, as an attractive travel destination and enhancing its public image as a dynamic place to live and work. Through the impact of travel, we strengthen Springfield's economic position and provide opportunity for people in our community. Tourism is certainly where economic development starts. A very active community is attractive to developers. It's an economic engine, $450 million annually to Sangamon County. It produces $9 million in local taxes, 3,400 jobs annually in the county, $107 million in payroll, and $3 million in hotel property taxes annually. Certainly, economic engine. Who drives that? It's our Visit Springfield team. It's a team of 12 professionals with over 130 years of experience. And what's interesting about that experience is we range from 30 years at some levels to 3 weeks. This team is driving the tourism market. Meetings and conventions led by Amy Beadle, our sales and marketing manager, who we just brought on board last year. Very excited to bring her. She was a key addition to our team. State and national trade associations, corporate meetings, niche meetings, auto, faith, medical, hobby, agriculture, across the board. On the leisure side, we also brought back Jeff Berg, who is our leisure manager, our tourism manager for Springfield. He is an expert in international travel and tourism outreach. Domestically and internationally, we have visitors from Germany, China, Spain, Mexico, Japan, every single year. And group tours. We're the only Convention Visitors Bureau in the state that books group tours through our agency. We book 2,000 plus school groups annually. We book adult travel as well through the Bureau. We align them with our sites and attractions. We set their itineraries through the Bureau so they have a tremendous experience in Springfield. We go on 5 C's: conventions, communication, collaboration, compression, and creating unique visitor experiences. We set these last year, and these are our 5 core values that we go on. 1, conventions and meetings. We need to return to being a convention city, and we will. That's why we brought back Amy. We increased our sales team. We know that conventions are the foundation of tourism because we know what's coming down the pipeline. We set those years in advance. The citywide events like you see, the Bikers Roundup last year, they take years to cultivate. But we also have these national and state associations that we bring back on an annual basis. 200 state associations are based right here in Springfield, the capital city. That is our foundation. We need to return to being a convention hotel. We have 30 hotels, 4,000 rooms, 375,000 square feet of meeting space available in the city. We have plenty of room for them to come. We have the sites to back it up. We will return to being a convention city Communication. You probably noticed if you're on our partner list, and if you're not, I have some cards in the back. Please send me an email. We'll put you in our partner update list. But increasing the communication in the community is vital to our tourism. Our partner updates, we've had about 6 partner updates since last fall. That tells you what our team is doing on a monthly basis. We report where we're traveling. We report who we're bringing to town. For example, 2 weeks ago we had 5 German travel media, representing $1 million in media exposure in Germany that was here for 2 days. We took them to the sites. We took them out to eat. They experienced the Horseshoe. They experienced Lincoln. They experienced Route 66. They go back. They write about their experience in Springfield, and hopefully we'll see those visitors using Chicago as a gateway. So our partner update is vital to letting the community know what is going on at the Bureau on a monthly basis. Please check it out. I'm sure you'll be surprised. As well as our partner alerts. These are our alerts that we send out for conventions. This is the first time we've done that in the Bureau's history. We want our business partners to know. We want the community to know who's in town. We want our businesses to be ready for the conventions that are in town. So let's say we have FFA in town and they're walking around. They're a little easier because they have their blue coats on. But if we have like a WaterCon and you see lots of activity downtown or around Springfield, our businesses will be ready. They staff accordingly. They welcome the convention to town as well. So we will continue to send monthly alerts on the conventions that are in town to our partners to let them be prepared. And then our e-newsletter that is sent out to e-consumers, our travelers that either visit us in the past or express interest in visiting Springfield. On a quarterly basis, seasonally, we will let them know what is happening in Springfield, the events, the sites, the attractions, so that we asking them to return to Springfield or visit if they haven't in some time. The collaboration, number 3. Sorry, let me catch up here. I thought it was going forward, but I guess not. All right. Collaboration. Working with our CVB partners to maximize impact. This year, for the first time in 25 years, we have one visitor's guide. Thanks to our partnership with the Illinois Times. It's been confusing in the past to our visitors on what visitor's guide should they use, and to our partners that which one should they distribute and put out. And so last fall, we decided to put out a bid for a partnership. We're so happy that the Illinois Times and the Capital City Visitor, which again has been established for some time, is our partner. We had to deliver this year. You can see right there from the cover that's a local artist that made that cover. I think it hits a lot of buttons for Springfield. And we're so excited to be able to have that partnership, to have that one visitor's guide in Springfield. Partnerships like the Central Illinois Customer Service Association. You know, Springfield has always been a friendly city, but do we have the customer skills to back it up? And so it's so important that we get behind this Central Illinois Customer Service Association. Their next event, by the way, is May 9th. Google them online. It's Servicetopia at the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Museum. But we need to have the skill set. At any given time, the traveler will come in and have 100 touch points, whether it's just stopping in town and stopping for gas before they're heading to their hotel, or it's at the hotel where they may have 20 or 30 different touch points, or at a restaurant, or just the business owners themselves, or just seeing residents on the street. We need to have that skill set so that we not only are friendly, but we anticipate needs. And we have those customer service standpoint that will back up that friendly city that we are. Our history comes alive. We'll hear a little bit more about that in a couple slides as well. But we rely on our sites and attractions to collaborate with us in order to set the program for History Comes Alive, which is a very, very unique program in Springfield. I talked about associations and planners. It's kind of hard to see, but you'll see the Merriment Mystery Dinner that we created. last year as the state association, the Illinois Society of Association Executives. They had their annual Winterfest in Springfield. And we said, you know what, instead of a booth this year, let's do a mystery dinner. Let's get planners together and figure out, they're not going to know where they're going for dinner. And we're going to show them that it's unique and show them unique experiences. And really, instead of just stopping by a booth, give them an experience while they're in Springfield. Old State Capitol holiday walks, for example, partnering with DSI and everything that's going on in the downtown level. Aware, this year we're kicking off the Aware app, which is an app that is a navigation app for the visually impaired and the directionally challenged as well. So anyone could use the app. We've put our visitor's guide on that app this year, and we've also included a link to our website. So we're looking forward to kicking that off this summer. We believe our visitors will certainly use that app. And then local events as well. Last fall, we partnered with the Springfield Marathon, and we provided these Run 217 shirts to finishers at the end, and they were a big hit. Tells them, hey, come back, Run 217, come back to Springfield and visit us again. Compression. This is really an internal C that we use, and this is a team builder that we say we're going to sell all quadrants of the city. We don't focus on just one area. We know that the downtown gets a lot of attention, and it should. That's where our sites and attractions are. But the Crown Plaza also has 60,000 square feet of meeting space. So for us and the team level is anywhere that we can book a convention or book a group is good for the city because we have to replace that business that's in that quadrant. So if we book something at the Crown Plaza and put something in there, whatever business was at the Crown is going to have to roll over to downtown or the south side or the west side. So we sell the city in quadrants as a team. There's that little delay there. That's what I'm looking at. And then 5, and last but certainly not least, is creating unique visitor experiences. And this is really the linchpin to our 5 C's, and this is what's going to return the visitor to Springfield. Once again, our History Comes Alive program certainly creates a unique experience when you see Lincoln and Mary Todd and Grant and period actors walking around downtown as they own the city, going to the programming. That's a unique experience that you won't find anywhere else in Illinois. Creating customized convention logos as well. We'll continue to do that as conventions come in and return to be a convention city. We will continue to say we were ready for you. Here's a customized logo. Street wraps are new. You'll see those this year in front of the BOS Center, whether the Crown Plaza or in front of our convention hotels. You can see right up in the corner, that's our very first one, the Welcome Illinois FFA. That'll be on some sidewalks, again, in front of our convention facilities. That'll be 4 feet by 3 feet, so it'll be large. They'll walk over the top of it. They'll know that Springfield is ready for them and ready to welcome them to Springfield. We've got this Instagram moment here. That'll be at the corner of 6th and Washington. It's really the only position that you can have. You can get a picture of the 2 state capitals. And I know it's hard to see on the screen here, but you can see that the old state capitol and the state capitol right there. We'll have that star there. We'll ask them that they share it with hashtag Visit Springfield and share it with the world. And so that will be fun. And then our step-on greetings. The motor coach market will be very key for us in the future, and we will provide a Lincoln or a Mary Todd step-on. So when the motor coach arrives to town, wherever they arrive, hotel, a site, we'll have Lincoln ready for them to step on board the motor coach and say, welcome to Springfield. That's very, very powerful. I think if you're on that bus and you see Lincoln or Mary Todd or maybe a Grant jump on board, you know where you're at. You know you're in Springfield, and you know that that's a unique experience that you're not going to have anywhere else in the world. So we can't wait to kick that off this year. Speaking of kicking off, we opened our new Springfield Visitor Center at the Lincoln Herndon Law Offices last November. For the past 25 years, the Visitor Center has been at our administrative offices on 7th Street. Not ideal, necessarily. It worked, but it wasn't ideal. We see about 4,000 visitors would come through our administrative offices on the 7th Street. We are open Monday through Friday, not on the weekends. Very excited to open up at the Lincoln Hearn Law offices. Certainly appreciate the Department of Natural Resources as our landlord. We take up the entire first level. As you enter the building, there'll be a lobby area with a large screen that will show events and attractions in Springfield. As you move through the lobby, there's a Lincoln Law Office installation, and then there's a post office installation, and then there's a common area, Tinsley Dry Goods, in the very back that we'll use for live remotes and community events and what have you. So just this year, you can see 2,400 visitors in 2019, and we're just heading into May. We haven't even hit our peak season yet, the spring and summer travel season. So we certainly are going to surpass the 4,000, and you can see 3,300 visitors from 36 states, including Spain, Portugal, New Zealand, Mexico, Japan, China, UK, have logged our book at the Visitor Center since November 2018. So again, we expect our visitor numbers to be in the 40 to 50,000 range this year as we move through the summer months. Route 66. The road is real, and we will put a new emphasis on Route 66. The CVB was the original marketer of 66 20 years ago. We did it before the state was doing it. We established a tourism where there's a grant for an international tourism marketing, and so we went to the UK and Germany, and we went over there and we said, hey, Lincoln, we have Lincoln. We have Lincoln sites, we have his home, here we are. We're ready for you. And they say, Lincoln's great, but guess what? What about Route 66? And we're like, oh, yeah, what about Route 66? Came back, established the International Route 66 Mother Road Fest. It'll be in its 18th year this September, and really started marketing 66 to our international travelers. Through the years, we relied on the festival. We certainly have our assets in Springfield, like the Cozy Dog, the original corn dog, the first drive-through in America, the Maid-Rights. We've got new assets like Motorheads, but we continue to tout those, but we kind of rested there. And meanwhile, the rest of the cities in Illinois, like a Pontiac, who's done an outstanding job, who don't have much outside of being on the road, creating murals and visitor centers and what have you, we fell behind just a little bit. So we're going to reinvent our efforts on 66. The 100th anniversary is in 2026. We want to be at least 3 years ahead of that. 23, 24, we want to be ready with our new idea of 66. There's a state effort, the Illinois Route 66 Centennial Commission. There's federal efforts to designate Route 66 as a National Historic Trail. Right now, we're inventorying our assets. We're defining our alignments, which, by the way, there are several Route 66 alignments in Springfield. The main one we see is Peoria Road, down 9th Street, 5th and 6th, out the south side, ending up through Auburn, which, by the way, has an original stretch, the Brick 66, as an original 1 mile stretch of Route 66. Ideal pictures. Our international travelers love it. They usually get themselves jumping in the air. If you follow any of our Facebook channels or our Instagram. So that would be the main route. There'll be other alignments as well for those Road 66 foamers or roadies, as they call them, that want to use those other alignments. But we're defining those assets right now, and we're laying those out so that we'll be ready from a city, county, state, federal perspective. We'll be ready when we have the 100th anniversary in 2026. This year, for the first time, we're kicking off a digital marketing campaign in markets we've never been to. Historically, as we should, Chicago and St. Louis have been our feeder cities. We know that Chicago and St. Louis coming down, whether it's coming down 55 or up 55 or coming up on Amtrak, we know that those have been our two main cities. We're kicking off this digital marketing campaign in just a couple days. We're heading into Iowa, the Quad Cities, Cedar Rapids, Cedar Falls, Dubuque, southern Wisconsin, Indianapolis. We're creating new markets because we know this. If conventions are our foundation, then we need to back that up on the leisure traveler. The problem with the leisure travel is it's fickle. We don't know what's going to happen year after year with leisure travel. We've got the built-ins. We've got the sites and attractions. We've got the historical sites. We've got more Lincoln sites than any city in the world. But because of the economy, because of travel, because of schedules, you never know. So leisure is fiscal. That's why we need conventions to be that baseline. We bring it back with leisure, but we need to enter new markets. So in just a couple of days, we're using over-the-top different channels, 550,000 commercials. We have a video outreach of 200,000 impressions in these new markets. We have, that thing keeps doing that. I keep hitting it and it keeps
Be sure
playing.
you put your feet.
Okay. We have Facebook and Instagram advertising. Estimated daily reach, 120,000 people. Facebook Live, we'll do 6 Facebook Lives. We'll do 6 email campaigns reaching 60,000%. And we'll have this unique scratch and win game that they'll be able to scratch and win on their cell phone. So we'll send it to their phone using Sinclair's database and their customers. We'll send it to their phone. We'll ask them a few questions about Springfield, maybe Springfield history and what have you. If they get the wrong answer, they can still come to Springfield and redeem it for a prize. Yes, we have the loser prizes. That's okay. If they're right, they come in, and we'll have packages for them, overnights, et cetera, that we've had from our partners that are donated from our partners. So real excited about that as well. As we enter these new markets, we don't expect to see maybe 10,000 Iowa plates this summer. I mean, come on, it is marketing. We expect it maybe to really come to fruition in 2020, summer 2020. We'll continue in those markets, but we will see an uptick in these Iowa license plates, Wisconsin license plates, Indiana license plates.
Be sure you put your feet in the right place. Then stand firm. In Springfield, Illinois, home to more Lincoln historic sites than anywhere in the world.
So that'll come across on multiple channels, multiple devices. We've got a 7-second spot, we've got a 10-second spot, a 15-second spot, a 30-second. It depends on what they're using and what channels that they're using. We'll also have Lincoln come across in some instances. He'll walk onto their screen and say, "Hello, why don't you come to Springfield?" And then one of these ads or one of these banner displays will play. Here's one more.
Come celebrate 10 years of history comes alive and meet me, Abraham Lincoln, in Springfield, Illinois this summer, home to more historic sites for your 16th president than anywhere in the world. Book your amazing trip today.
So that'll come across as well, 500,000 times, over and over and over. We're real excited about this digital campaign. It doesn't mean that we're not going to be using traditional marketing, traditional methods. Doesn't mean we're not going to be in Chicago or St. Louis. We still will be, but we're just taking a different approach with these new markets. Traditional media is still very, very important to us, but today's world, especially in the marketing, as you well know, that you have to cover so many aspects. So we're very excited to move into the digital side as well. So a couple initiatives that we're creating as well is be a tourist in your hometown. We really need the community to come together, visit the sites that are in your backyard this year, and tell the world about them. When's the last time you went out to the tomb? Anyone? I know it had been a while for me, so I went out to the tomb, and I walk into the tomb, and I get goosebumps every single time. Just to know that Abraham Lincoln is there. He may be 15 feet under concrete, but when you see that monument, and you see what it means to the international travelers, take some time to sit out there for some extra time, see how many dialogues come through the tomb. It's pretty amazing. We've had discussions about that as well. But go out to the tomb, get that. Visit Lincoln Home, the museum, and let's not forget about assets like the Dana Thomas House, the Frank Lloyd Wright Trail, 99% of its original contents. What we have to connect that Lincoln Home, the new Bicentennial Plaza. As you roll through the Governor's Mansion, the newly renovated Governor's Mansion, $15 million renovation, onward to the Capitol. It really provides a walking tour unlike anywhere. But we need our citizens to also take a look at that and then tell the world. Engage Springfield, be positive about Springfield. Stop by our new visitor center. Why not? You're downtown, stop by on the old State Capitol Plaza. You can see here, this is actually a photo from CrowdRiff. CrowdRiff is a visitor that submitted their photo, allows us to use it. Just outside the new visitor center, certainly the high five tells it all. And so we will incorporate more visitor photos as well as we move through CrowdRiff. And then our other initiative, Get the City to 60. It's an initiative that we're looking at to get the city to citywide occupancy 60%. Going back since 1992, looking at the Smith Travel Research records, we see that we've never crested that 60% mark in Springfield. We've come close a few times. 59.1, 59.2, we've been real close. The last 3 years, we've averaged 55% occupancy flat in the city of Springfield. We know we have to sell 87,000 more rooms annually in order to crest that 60% mark. So 5% doesn't sound like much, but when you're looking at the hotel and the tourism world, those 87,000 room nights, that's why we need to be in new markets for leisure. That's why we need to return to be a convention city and that being our foundation. But we need tourists in our town. We need your help as well. We know our residents are going to meetings. We know that our business partners are. Why not bring your meeting back to Springfield? Ask them to host it here. Tell them about Springfield. Let them know, what we can do to accommodate their group. We need everyone to get on board. I've actually left some rack cards and lapel pins, which is right here, on the registration desk. And feel free to pick one up. If there's not enough to go around now, I'm happy to drop one by or to mail one to you. But getting the 60 to 60%, great start. And I promise a celebration like no other when we reach that 60%. It'll be a community-wide celebration. I could go on and on. I talked about Motor Coach, where we're looking at 200 adult coaches a year, those coaches that are going still to Branson and Nashville. We're going to recapture those coaches. They come out of Wisconsin and Minnesota and Michigan. We're going to recapture those coaches, have them come on board with our unique visitor experience that I talked about. We're redesigning our website as we speak. We're exploring the sports market. That's right, the sports market. We know other cities like Rockford and Bloomington and Peoria, who opened up a Louisville Slugger complex just a couple years ago. We know that they've stepped into that sports market, so we will continue to explore the facility side of the sports market. Our social media, we took back our social media just last couple months, so we'll be more engaging, more organic in our posts. Visit Springfield. If you have not followed us on Facebook or Instagram, or hashtag Visit Springfield when you are out and about and you want to mark being a tourist in your town and you want to tell the world. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Mayor Langfelder, the City Council, for the support of the CVB. It's interesting traveling the state and looking at Springfield because we're the only accredited CVB that's a city agency in the state. And people are like, well, why are you a city agency? And why are you that? Because we have the support of the city. We have built-in funding, which is ginormous when you look around the state and looking at what other bureaus are and the challenges that they're facing. With the support of the city, we can certainly do anything that we can put our minds to, we can certainly accomplish. And without their support, it would be much, much more difficult. That's it for me. I'll take some questions. If anyone has any questions, certainly answer them. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for your engagement in tourism in Springfield. Appreciate it.
We got questions? Sam?
Thanks for the great talk. Are you, and the great job you're doing at tourism, are you set up now when the next federal government shutdown comes that the city is going to keep the Abraham Lincoln Home open?
We do.
How would that work?
And we are. So, and again, thanks to the mayor, the city council, the great example of that. Yeah, we will have a contingency plan in order. We have funding up to $50,000, and we'll put that plan in order if that happens. We hope it doesn't. Fortunately, on that side is the Lincoln Home is the only site that is affected by that federal shutdown. Most of our sites, the remainder of our sites are all state funded. So, getting that message out. Unfortunately, though, even though it's the only one, from a visitor standpoint, when they hear shutdown and they hear Lincoln's Home's closed, they assume that all of our sites are closed, even despite our efforts letting them know that 99% of our sites are still open. That it's hard to get over that. So, but we have that contingency plan in place, and again, we're thankful for the city for allowing us to do that. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Norm.
Good job, Eric.
Thank you.
I do have a question, though. I appreciate the preponderance of the effort related to convention and visitors, to meetings and conventions, and I understand why. But I also note that the mission statement on the first slide said that part of CVB's role is to enhance the image of the city for people to live here and work here. Given the population decline we've seen, given that will be demonstrated in the next census, which will mean we'll lose federal funds, and that the comprehensive plan calls for the city to take efforts to encourage more people to live and work here, to move or to live and work, and sort of puts CVB on notice about doing some of that. I was curious as to where those efforts are at the present time.
Well, I think part of our C's is the collaboration, right? Collaboration within the community, so that we can build these relationships. And so I think once the community fully understands what tourism brings, the $450 million impact it has to the county on an annualized basis, the positivity and what we have to offer as far as more Lincoln sites than any city in the world, that we're a jewel for the nation. The more positivity we can have coming from Springfield, I think the more that we can get past any of those declines.
Do you think more people will live here because we have a lot of Lincoln sites?
Well, no, not necessarily just because we have a lot of Lincoln sites necessarily, but I think that spurs economic development too, right? A vibrant city full of tourists, full of activity. I think developers look at that and say, wow, we have an active city here. It's the state capital. Let's develop. Once they then spurs on that development, wherever it may come from, then we combine that with having an active tourism scene. I believe that, in turn, is what will then allow that negativity or that impact to be overcome.
Back here.
Sir, you say that we have fewer conventions, fewer tourists than we used to, and that we are going to work harder to make up for this decline. What would you say was the main, or what were the several causes of the decline, and do you think it's because we weren't trying hard enough? What do you think the causes were?
Well, I think what we've done is we had marketed to the same areas and the same items that we have done for years upon years. We did also have a budget impasse for 2 years. At one point, the Illinois Office of Tourism went dark for 6 months. They had no funding for 6 months. That certainly hurts, and it hurts for some degree after that. But I think it's that we just need to look at these new markets and refocus in our efforts. I don't think it's necessarily been that the business hasn't been out there. I think that we just hadn't refocused on the new markets and really gone after the same things we were going over. And you can see from that entering some new markets, refocusing on being a convention city once again, I think will make the difference as we head towards that 60%.
Are you making outreach to show the opportunities for Black history in Springfield?
We are, and so then, and let's take Route 66 for example. That we've got the new route history on 8th and Cook. We just highlighted it on our social media channels. That's going to tie in African American travel on Route 66, but also tie in the Race Riot walking tours from the 1908 Race Riot walking tours, which we have the new plaques for, and as well the memorial that we're continuing to have discussions about as well. So yeah, we'll continue that conversation, as far as from an African American standpoint as well. But I think that we'll tie all that in at one point. Real excited to see if the memorial gets done at some point. But we'll continue to talk about our race riot markers and continue the walking tours there.
Scott, can you elaborate any more on the Route 66 corridor, how you're going to utilize things like the Sunrise Donut sign and other features, and kind of where that planning stands right now? Yeah,
so whether we define one corridor or several corridors or have a trail for the Route 66, you brought up the Sunrise Donut sign. It's at housed at ACE right now, and ACE just got the new neon on one side, so we're looking forward to unveiling that in the near future. And that will eventually end up somewhere on the corridor, wherever that may be, or one of the corridors. But we're really right now defining our assets for Route 66, and I think that's key. I mean, we have more original assets than most cities along the 2,000-mile stretch of Route 66, and I named a few. We have the only fairgrounds on the Route 66 stretch, the 2,000-mile stretch. So we're going to take advantage of that. We're talking about we're so excited to see the giant slide at the fairgrounds stay in town. That was very exciting for us because at some point we have this vision, this idea that you could slide down 66. We've talking about an experience at Gate 2 on the fairgrounds. We just met with the fairgrounds yesterday. And again, we just need to get all these together. That 9th Street corridor, you move down through there. We got Fulgenzi's that's got a lot of the Shays memorabilia. We've got Randy Pickett, who's the new owner of the Shays gas station. He's very excited. He wants to bring it back to what it was, or at least a portion of what it was at one point. Again, I mentioned Made Right, the first drive-through in America. I mean, that's that part of that unique traveler experience that they want. Maldener's, the oldest restaurant on Route 66. I mean, we're defining those assets right now. We know they're out there. We just haven't marketed them. And we have an exciting program called Living Legends that we will bring the road to life. And that is when you're traveling down 66, we'll identify these individuals, these business owners that have collected or made their living on Route 66, and you'll be able to meet them, get your photo with them, talk to them, and we'll make it somewhat of a scavenger hunt type of thing where you want to get your photo with all of them. For example, Sam at the Made Right. We talked to him, and you can stop in there, get a Made Right sandwich, see the first drive-through, get your photo with Sam. Sam will chat with you about his experiences on the 66 as well. Fulgenzi's are one of those as well because of where they're positioned. We've got Ron Metzger out at Motorheads. Even though Motorheads is fairly new, Ron's been collecting 66 memorabilia for 40 years. We'll continue to build that living legend so we bring the road alive. So, Jim, there's a lot of visions out there. We're putting them together right now. We're defining those along with the alignments, and we'll have that out shortly.
Good morning, Scott. First,
Morning.
It's very, very exciting to hear all your enthusiasm and all the things you're doing, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
One thought I had was about, you mentioned briefly the state capitol.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of weeks ago when the General Assembly was here, we had at least 20 motor coaches parked in their parking lot. So those people are coming, and I think maybe they're missing the opportunity to see other things happening in Springfield. So my question is, do you work in advance with the state capitol tourism department to know who's coming and reach out to them before they come so that maybe they could stay longer and visit more attractions in Springfield? Because we have tons of people at the Capitol.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Kind of two parts is we work very, very closely with the Illinois Office of Tourism. So we certainly do that. The other part of that is we know that one of the things we hear over and over is, you know what, we wish we would have spent more time in Springfield. We wish we would have allocated an extra day in Springfield. We hear that over and over because once they get here, we've got all these historic sites, we've got the Route 66, we've got the day and the time, and it's just too much for one day or even a day and a half, and so we hear that over and over. And what you're talking about with these coaches is, they used to be just a quick pop in, do one or two sites and then be on their way, through Springfield. We're trying to change that mindset. And so we recognize that we need to get in front of that and say, it's going to take more than a day or more than a day and a half. So be sure that you allocate 2 or 3 days when you're visiting Springfield. And these coaches could be the same way as well. You're right. Get in front of them, let them know that, hey, have you considered the overnight, not just a stopover? But I will say that, especially this time of year, we do have a lot of, whether it be school groups or just groups, lobbying groups that are maybe just coming for the day, that'll be on those coaches. So we have a lot of day visitors as well. A lot of these school groups don't arrive just on school buses. They'll arrive on a motor coach as well. But those are just day trips because obviously everything that culminates in the scheduling for the kids that are coming for the school trips. I will also tell you, though, that we have looked into the school groups outside of Illinois. And that's where we're real interested in looking as well, because it's a timing issue. You can only book so many at the sites. There's only so much capacity there. So, the prime time is the springtime. Fall, obviously very attractive, but, the prime time for these school groups is in the spring. So, where do we fit them in? And do we try to encourage these out of state that we know will overnight these school groups? And we really haven't explored that market. We've talked about it from a sales team standpoint, and we'll continue those conversations. But you're right. We need to get into the minds early that it's going to take more time, spend that extra night in Springfield.
Yes, you gave us a very good presentation. And
sorry, yeah.
And it looks like a lot's going on. One of the things that concerns me is, though, like coming in on Peoria Road, coming in on Clear Lake, it's kind of raggedy. The curbing, the sidewalks, the maintenance of the grass, and the actual physical impression that you get is not a very positive one. I've traveled around a lot of different cities, and no city's perfect. There's always those sore spots, as you say. But as coming into the city, and especially those particular thoroughfares, it seems like there needs to be some coordination to try to bring those up, because it doesn't give us a very good impression.
I agree, and that's something that we need to address. And I think that's what's also important about being a city agency, is that we have direct connection to the city council, and addressing issues like that. I believe, I agree. We could make it a little more attractive coming in on some of those avenues. That's in part why, though, the Route 66 coming down 9th Street on the north side is very, very appealing, establishing that as a corridor, because dress that area up, just as we need to do on Clear Lake and South Grand for anyone coming in there. We are making efforts on the south side of town. I don't know if you guys come in town that way, but we have a digital board on the south side of town. That's where 5th and 6th split. Right before the overpass, there's a digital board, and we have all new programming, all new graphics sitting up there. Please take a look at it. Come down 6th Street and take a look at it. It's the first time in 6 or 7 years that that digital board has been updated. It will catch your eye. The colors that we use, the sites that we have displayed on that board will catch your eye, and we think will catch the visitor's eye. So we are trying to improve that. We know that we probably need some streetscaping around that, as well as those other avenues. And so your concern is certainly something that we're taking a look at. And with the efforts of the city, I believe we can overcome those.
Scott, I have a question. Could you explain how your organization is funded?
Yeah, absolutely. So talk about the $450 million, that $9 million in tax room that come through. About approximately $4 million is created annually through the hotel tax, and we receive 3% of that. So the Bureau receives 3% of the hotel tax created by the visitors, right? I mean, unless you're a resident staying in the hotel, you're not contributing to that hotel tax. So the visitors then pay that tax. It's 7% at the city level, 6% at the state level. But that 7% then gets reinvested into the Bureau, or at least 3% of it gets reinvested in the Bureau. Percent goes to the cemetery to help the operations there, and some other ways it's broken out. But we're solely funded through the hotel tax. That's why it's so important for us to create those overnights and to market outside of the area as well. 50 miles out. is our radius, our minimum radius, because we want to bring those overnights in because that's in part how we're funded. We also deliver the rest back in revenue to the city. So we are a true revenue generator. I'm not aware of any time in Bureau history that we ever ran in the red, where it actually cost the city money to operate the Bureau. We operate through those hotel tax funds. It pays for everything we do on the marketing side and delivers revenue back to the city. So it's really not the citizens that are necessary. We understand it's the citizens' money, it's the taxpayers' money, but it's actually generated through the visitors.
Could you explain a little bit or help me understand how do you interact with the BOS Center, which is a convention center in its own right by legislature, and how that works? Because my understanding for them, in order to them to be able to stay fiscally responsible, is that they try to balance perhaps more towards events, and that conventions are not a moneymaker for them. So explain how you balance that out with that different entity.
Well, we work close with Brian Oakes and their staff and our sales team. Amy's here today. She works real close with the BOS Center. And you're right, it is a balance because the BOS is a separate entity, and obviously they need to stay in the black as well. They need to create the events and have the events that make money for them while also balancing the convention side. So, we work together in that sense. But we got to remember that we have more than just the convention center. Again, we have 60,000 square feet at the Crowne Plaza. The convention center is just a small part. We have another 40 or 50,000 at the two largest, each of the two largest convention hotels downtown. So we have more space than that. They are a key component for our conventions, though, and that we work together with them. And we got a great working relationship, with them. Wherever they can, provide us breaks, given them the time, they certainly do, or our conventions. And you know what? When we have to provide subsidies to conventions, in part, sometimes it is to pay for the rental fees of the BOS or whatever facility it may be. And so, and that's another component I want to touch on is from a subsidy standpoint is, we are more aggressive on the subsidies. I don't know who created it 15, 20 years ago, and what Bureau started giving groups, subsidies or providing them, with money, but it certainly is prevalent in the industry, whereas we have groups that will go to an area because they are subsidized. Our general rule of thumb is we'll subsidize up to whatever hotel tax they create, because we break even at that point. If we subsidize over the top of the hotel tax, then at some point we need to make that up in our own funding. We will do up to the hotel tax because we also realize this. They're creating sales tax and other economic and making other economic impacts when they come to town, not just for the hotel tax, and we're not losing anything. So again, to get back to your question is, we will provide subsidies when the BOS can't provide a break or can't provide a space. We will pay them for that space, and happy to do so. And it just depends on the circumstance and the time of the year and the group. So, but we do work with them closely.